Hello, welcome to my channel. So in this video, you will learn how you can develop a very simple CRUD application using Django REST framework for backend and React.js for frontend. So this will be the very simple application. You can see you will develop this very simple student management system with CRUD operations. So this is the navigation bar. This is home screen, which is nothing, just a slide bar, images, and then you have the student list page. This will get the list of students from backend. Here you can see multiple fields which are being fetched from the backend from a table. And then we have a manage students page here. Here you can perform all of the CRUD operations. For example, you can add a new student from here, or you can update an existing student, or you can delete a student. So this is a very simple CRUD application that you will be developing. So let's get started. Okay, so before starting the actual implementation of this application, I just want you to understand some basic concepts. So let's just start from here. So if you do not want to, if you already know all of these concepts, then you can simply jump to the development part. Otherwise, you can actually remind all of these. Okay, so basically, what is REST API? Basically, an application or an API is basically an application programming interface, which is basically a set of rules which allows two or more computer programs to communicate with each other. So with these rules, you can communicate two or more programs which are written, may be written in different languages. So two programs can communicate with each other, whether these are on a single computer or these are on multiple computers, or these are on different servers. So these can be communicated using application programming interface. What is REST? Basically, REST is stands for representational state transfer. And REST APIs, basically REST is a software architecture which defines a set of rules and industry standards that developers follow to create APIs. So basically, to create the API, we actually follow a set of rules so that the API is following a standard, and the REST actually is built on HTTP standards. We will discuss the HTTP methods or HTTP verbs in the next slide. So hopefully you understand the basic concepts of what is a REST API. Okay, so if I go to the next slide, what is actually CRUD and HTTP verbs? So CRUD is simply an acronym for create, read, update, and delete. So whenever you are going to create a website, you are going to go with these four basic operations. You need to create some new resource, you need to get list of resources or a single resource, or you need to update an existing resource, or maybe you want to delete an existing resource. So this will be these are the simple CRUD operations that are basically part of almost every REST API. And then if I talk about the HTTP verbs, so what are HTTP verbs? These are basically, since REST APIs basically communicate using the HTTP transfer protocol. So they actually communicate using the, basically these CRUD operations are being performed using these HTTP verbs, which are basically post, get, put, patch, and delete. So what is post? Post is basically to update an existing resource. Get is for actually reading a resource or getting the list of resources. Put and patch is basically for updating an existing resource. Delete is for deleting a resource. So these are basically used for CRUD operations. Okay, so next move on to the application architecture. So here you can see that I just wanted you to understand the basic architecture that actually is followed on in every Django, actually in every Django application, since we are going to develop the front end and the back end both of this application. So I wanted you to know the how these are going to communicate with each other. Basically, if you are going to develop the simple backend of the application, then in that case maybe you are going to consume your APIs, you might want to use a client. So a client can be either it can be Postman, it can be written in any language. For example, it can be written in Python, or it can be written in any other language, or it can be your front end. So in this case, we are going to create our front end to consume our REST APIs. So our front end will be developed in React.js. and we will cover that part later on in the implementation. How are we going to develop this in React.js, and the backend will be developed in Django web framework. And for actually we are not going to use simple Django web framework, since I prefer to use the Django REST framework, since it's very flexible for developing the REST APIs, and it gives you a lot of flexibility, and it makes very easy to develop the scalable REST API. So we will be using Django REST framework for developing our REST API, but still obviously Django web framework will be used behind. Okay, and then there will be a database. So how are these gonna communicate with each other? So here we have front end. We make a, for example, our front end just put a request on the backend. So for example, it can be a get request, it can be an update student request, it can be delete student request or add student request. So what will we do? It will send these requests via REST API to, or using HTTP verbs, which can be get, post, put, patch, delete, etc. And then these requests will be sent to the, will be received at Django REST framework. Django REST framework, what will it do? It will simply serialize the data from Django ORM to ORM, and it will allow access and updates via REST API. This serialization, I will discuss this in the implementation part, how we are gonna develop the, how we're gonna write the serializer to serialize our data. And then this will be passed to the serialized data will finally be passed to Django, and then finally Django will get the data, or query the data from the database, and return it back to Django REST framework, which will serialize to XML or JSON formats, and then it will be returned back to the front end, and we can see the result there. Okay, so that's about the application architecture. Next, if I move on to the next slide. Okay, so here I just want you to know a little of the architecture about Django REST framework, since we are going to develop all of these things, URL patterns, view, serializer models. These will be the classes that we will be developing for the backend. So I want you to know how these are going to communicate. So this will be our Django app. In this, we have got a request from front end, or from the client, an HTTP request, and then that request will be in the form of URL patterns. For example, it can be slash get students list, it can be slash post student, and these kind of URL patterns. We will just discuss these when you will just know better when we will develop the application. So once this URL pattern will actually parse the URL and will send it to the respective view. For example, if that is a get URL, it will go to the get view, and so on. And then the view will contain the overall logic for the CRUD operations, for creating the student, deleting the student, updating the student. So the views will contain all of the logic, and then these views will actually be using since we will be receiving the data from the request, we might be receiving the payload for our post request. So serializer, what the serializer will do, this will basically, view will go to the serializer will serialize the data, or parse the data or into the models, which will basically convert your basically convert the JSON, for example, the JSON data into the Django models, or it can do the reverse. For example, it can convert the Python data structures to the JSON or XML. So the serializer will be used for that purpose, and then the model will directly communicate with our database, and then from the database we can fetch the respective information, or we can create or update the information inside our this can be any database, not only MySQL. It can be either Postgres, it can be Oracle, or any other database of your preference. So this is all about the Django REST framework, and I think these concepts are more than enough to start developing. So the next part is the development of the application. Okay, so we will start the development of our backend. So for backend, we will need to install these few libraries. We will need to install Python, Django REST framework, Django course headers. For Python installation, I'm gonna use this PyCharm. So you can install this PyCharm IDE for Python development. You can go to the PyCharm. Yeah, so you can go to the download JetBrains page, and from here you can download the community edition and you can install it. Once it is installed, you will open this PyCharm. So this will actually automatically install Python version for you as well. So if you want to use any other IDE, for example Visual Studio Code, you can use, but we are gonna use this PyCharm for this. Okay, so from here I'm going to create a new project, and here let me call the project SMWA Student Management Web Application, and I'm going to create a virtual environment for this. And this is my Python 39 3.9, and yeah, so this is the location where I'm going to create it. Let's hit create. I'm going to create open it in this window. Okay, so it will just take a little bit of time to create the virtual environment. So once the virtual environment is created, our project will be initiated, and then we will be able to install the required libraries. Okay, so our project has been initiated. Now we are going to open the terminal window, and from here we are going to install so first we will install Django framework. Okay, so this has been uh, installed. Now we're going to install, sorry about that, now we're going to install Django REST framework. So we'll do pip install Django REST framework, and make sure that it's being installed inside your virtual environment. You can see that it's already in PyCharm. It's I did not need to activate the virtual environment. It just automatically created and activated for me. So my Django REST framework has also been installed, and then I'm gonna install Django course headers. We will need this for since we will be communicating our front end, so we will need the Django course header for that purpose, so that our front end can consume the APIs on the back end. Okay, so that's it. These are the few three libraries that we needed. Now we can actually start the development. So before so in Django you can create a project. So we will just use Django admin start project. We can call it maybe yeah, we are gonna call it backend. Since we are going to develop the backend, it will just create the initial Django project with the initial data directory structure inside SMWA. Let's just hit enter. So it's going to create the Django project. Let's wait for it to complete. Okay, so it says completed. Let's just wait for it to appear here. Okay, so here you can see a backend structure. So this has actually created the required directory structure for you. So has actually created your backend server. So you do not do not need the Apache server for this. You can simply initialize your web server from directly from here using manage.py file. Here you can see this directory structure. This init.py is just for simply telling that this backend is a package, a Python package, this init.py. And then we have this asgi.py. This is for yeah, for web servers and nothing else. And then we have WSGI is simply for ASGI compatible web servers, and WSGI ASGI for ASGI compatible web servers, and WSGI is for WSGI compatible web servers. And then we have the settings.py file. This settings.py file will actually be containing all of the settings that you need for your project. So basically it can contain the databases, it can contain the templates, the middlewares, the installed apps. So when we will just discuss these later on during the development. So these are just few settings that you can handle from settings.py, and then this is the urls.py file. This will actually register all of the urls patterns for your application. So when we will be developing the application, for example, we need to register the urls for our student app, then we are gonna register it from here. And then finally we have this manage.py file. This is just very simple thing, the very simple utility, command line utility for you to actually start the server or to perform other operations. So let's just start for our first app, which is basically the student app. So Django provides you the flexibility to create multiple apps inside your project. So you can consider an app a microservice. If you are familiar with microservice service architecture, each app is an independent module. So you can create as many apps as you want, and an app should be independent from the other apps. Okay, so for creating our first app, we are going to just go inside the backend directory first, and then in that directory we will create the uh, so we are in the backend directory, and now we are going to write python manage.py, and we are gonna call. Okay, so before moving to creating the app, let's just test uh, if our Python, sorry, if our Django project has been initiated successfully. So if I run python manage.py.server, so this will just um, open this. This will register your app Django project on this URL on 8000 port. This is the default port. So here you can see the install worked successfully. So you can test it if the everything is in place. So our Django has been installed successfully. Now we are going to create our app. So for this, we are already inside the backend. Yeah, we are already in the backend. Okay, so now we are going to create our app. We will write python manage.py and start app, and then we'll call our app maybe students. Yeah, I think. Yeah. So this will create an app inside your backend directory. You can create other apps as well. So what will this do? This will actually let's wait for it to appear here. Okay, so this will actually create a directory structure for you, which is so it will this directory structure will help you to create. For example, you want to create models, tests, views, and other things, etc. So you can focus more on your coding instead of creating the directory structure. If you have worked with Flask, then you know that in the Flask you need to create the directory structures for you. But Django is a web framework, so it gives you a lot of flexibility in creating these kind of structures for your application. So in this directory, you can see multiple files. This init.py file is just a file to tell you that the students is a Python package, and then you have this admin.py file. In this file, you can register your models, which you are going to create in the models.py file. Here, you're going to create the models files. These models will actually be the instances for tables in your backend, which will be communicating with your backend. And then you have this apps.py file. This will simply contain the configuration for your application. For example, the name of your application, what will be the default auto field. So then you have this tests.py file. Here you can create your unit tests. And then we have views.py file. Here you will create the views in which you would write the logics your for your create, delete, update, and delete operations. And then you can see this migrations directory here. This is the init.py file, still again telling that it's a Python package. And once you will do any migrations, then any of the migrations, these migrations will be to migrate your models to the actual tables. For example, if you create a new model here and it's not in the in your table, then and you run the migration, then it will create a migration script inside this, and it will create a table for you. You will not need to write any SQL for that. So that's about the directory structure. Let's start our actual implementation. So okay, so I think first initially we will start with the student model, because that's the main thing, the initial thing that we need. So let's call our model student. Okay, so I'm gonna create a class student. uh, and I'm gonna inherit it from models dot model. I have already here this model. Okay, sorry, this is models dot model, and then I'm going to create a student ID, which will be the char field, models dot char field, and let me keep basically let's just make it our uh, let's just make it our primary key. So I'm gonna call it primary underscore key equals true. This will be the primary key, and then I'm gonna call the first name, and this should be the char field, which is mapped to the varchar field on the actual table. And let's just keep its length to 100. I guess 100 will be enough. Yeah. Okay, let's take another, which is last name, and this um will again char field with max length. Let's keep it 100 as well. And then I'm gonna create another field, registration number, and and this will also be char field. Yes, basically we are gonna use char field, so each field here which seems more appropriate to me. And then we have email and models.char field, max length. I'm gonna keep it 100 as well. And then finally I have course, and this is again gonna be the char field, and I'm gonna say max length equals 100. So that's it. This is a very simple model. Something is wrong. Okay, so this is a very simple model that we are going to create, and the spelling's mistake. Okay, and why it's complaining. So yeah, I think it's complaining because I have space missing. Okay, so that's the models. That's for us. And let's just close all of these extra tabs. Okay, so this is our model, and then we are going to apply the migrations so that this model can be created inside our database. So if you're wondering that I haven't set up any database for this application, so you basically Django comes with a default database, which is uh, I don't remember the name of the database. SQLite database, yeah. So basically, Django comes with the SQLite database by default. So we're gonna use the SQLite database, but in your actual applications, you definitely be using MySQL, Oracle, or any other commercial database. So before applying the migration, what I need to do is I will go inside the settings.py file, and in this py settings.py file, I need to add my app here. Okay, so uh this app is basically inside students. This is my students app, and then it's in .apps file, and then in .apps file I can just go, and this is the name, yeah, students config. Okay, I'm gonna copy this, and okay, students.apps.students config. So this will actually register the app here, and then if we will not register our app here, then we will then Django will not know that this app exists. So we need to register this app inside our settings file. Okay, so now our app is registered in the settings file. Now we can actually apply the migrations. So for this, we're going to run the command python manage py make migrations. So this will actually, and for we are going to create migration for our students app. Here you can see some other apps, for example, admin, auth, content type sessions. You can keep this, or you can just remove these are basically Django default apps. So these are very handy for authentication, for session management, and other kind of things. So I'm gonna keep this. Okay, so next I have I'm going to create the migrations for students app. So here you can see that it has created a migration script inside your migrations directory. Here you can see that it has created this migration script, and here it's telling us that these are the fields that needs to be created in the backend, in your actual database. So you just don't make any changes inside the database. This is just used by Django to create your uh, the SQL queries for creating tables in your database. Okay, so our migration has been created successfully. Now we can actually see what SQL it's going to generate. So we can do that as well using manage.py, and we are going to write SQL migrate so we can review what it has created students, and our file was 0001. So okay, so here you can see that it has generated this. The Django has generated this create statement for your table. So this will be actually run in your database, and it will create a table inside your database. Okay, so it seems totally okay to me. So I can just now run python manage.py and migrate. So this will actually run this migrations. This will run all of the create table scripts or alter table scripts, and it will migrate your changes to your database. So I'm gonna do python manage.py, and then I'm going to write migrate. So here you can see it's doing all of the migrations. It has applied migrations for students as well. You can see all of these migrations as well, because we had, as I told you before, that we had these default applications in this. So these are already also being these are also uh, being created in your database. So here you can see now you have a db.sqlite3 file here. So this is your SQLite3 database file. So means our database has been created and our tables have been created inside our SQLite3 database. Now that our migration is being done successfully, now the next thing we can do is we will need to go to the views.py file. Okay, so in this file, okay, before going, I'm going to move to the create. I just want to show you the admin panel, how we can use the admin uh, panel of the Django. So for that we are going to create a let's just first let's just go there and just check everything is fine. Yeah. Okay, so we need to first uh, let's just create the user first. So basically to uh, log into the admin site, I just want to show you one thing before. So let's just start our server first. Okay, so it started. Let's just refresh our page, and to actually access the admin page, we just simply go to the /admin site, and here you can see that it's asking for the username and password, but right now we do not have any username and password, since we do not haven't created any super user in our database. So no admin user is being created yet. So for this we will first need to create a database. Okay, so I'm going to create my database. We need to create a super user for this first. So I'm going to create manage.py create super user. I hope so this is correct. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna name my username. Let me just name it admin. I'm gonna skip email address and password. I hope I can remember the password. Okay, I'm just gonna bypass since I can't remember difficult passwords. So you can create your password. Yep. Okay, so our user has been created. Now I'm gonna start the server again, and we can check if everything is fine. So I created my admin user and I did not create any password. Let me log in. uh, it's asking for the password, so let's just uh, okay, so it's asking for the password. I will need to create the password. Very bad. Okay, so I'm gonna create the super user again. Admin, it's saying it's already been taken. Let's just create the other user. Okay, yep, my user has been created finally. Okay, so I'm gonna create open this again. Let me just try this. Okay, sorry, not this one. Um, okay, so here you can see this is our Django administration site. Here you can see some tables for groups and users. You can add some things here from here, and you are seeing this under authentication and authorization. This is basically since we migrated our database and we had this application. We had this basically in our settings.py file. We had this admin, this authentication apps, and we when we applied the migrations, then it created some here it just created some uh, tables for you in your db.sqlite 3. So we can see those tables right here. If you go inside users, you can see that we just created two users here, admin and this user. So you can add the users from this UI as well. You can search for anything, you can add the new user instead of from the command line and all those things. Now you must be wondering that why we can't see the tables for our own application, students application. It should be here, but we can't see here. So it's because we haven't actually basically registered our model inside our admin.py file. So for that, we will first need to register our model here from dot models import student. Okay, and I think that's enough. I'm gonna remove this line from here, and I'm gonna call models underscore list equals student, and then I'm going to register it to the admin site, admin dot site dot register. uh, yep, and I'm gonna register the models list here. That's it. Now if we do not need to restart the server, it will just refresh, and now we can go back and refresh. So now you can see the students table here. From here you can add a new student. Let's just add one. Let me call that whatever. Okay, and I'm gonna call this registration number um, email, and then course. Okay, so from here you can see that you can add as many objects from here as you want, and you can also actually delete an existing student. You can update an existing student. So this will be a very so from here you can see that you can actually perform the CRUD operations, but these are not being consuming an API. These are actually interacting directly with your backend. So you are never gonna want to give this site to your actual users. Since this is not a good practice, you will actually need the APIs to communicate with the other applications. You are not going to this is of no use actually for your actual application. So you need to develop the API for this so that it can communicate with the front end or with other applications. So, and also to handle other kind of logics, you cannot handle any other logics in here. You can not write any logic in your create or your update or delete things. This is just simple as you are just inside your database and inserting, deleting, updating the rows. So now we are going to develop the actual API. So let's go back inside our code. Here we will go inside the views.py file, and here we will write our CRUD operations. Okay, so but before actually writing the views, let's just start writing the serializers, since the serializers will actually be converting your JSON into your models, or your models in case of requests, and your models into your JSON to for creating the response. Okay, so let's create a Python file here and name this serializers. Okay, now inside our serializers file, uh, we are gonna need the REST framework. Okay, so REST framework import, since we are gonna use the serializer from the REST framework. Uh, Serializer, I guess, serializers. Yep, and then we need the model. So we are going to import our student model from models, import our student model. Okay, now we are going to create our serializer class, student serializer, and this will be inherited from serializers dot model serializers, since we are going to create for our model. Okay, and now last meta, sorry, class meta, and we will take it for our model will be student. Okay, and then we are gonna create the fields equals student ID, and then we had first name, we had last name, and then we had I guess registration number, and then we had email, I guess, and finally we had course. So that's it. I think we don't need anything else here. And let me just fix this typo. Okay, so this is the simple serializer for us. This will actually here I have one more typo, sorry about that. Okay, so this will actually convert your JSON into the model. So now we have created our serializer. Next we need to create our view. So we will go inside views.py file, and now we can actually start writing the CRUD operations here. So let's just create our class student view, I'm gonna call this, and we will need to uh, inherit it from API view, and I think it should be, let's just remove this render, we do not need it. Okay, from framework, going to create the get API. Okay, first create the post API so that we can create some objects inside our table. Okay, so we will need a request object for this. Okay, and then we are going to take the data, the payload of the object, request object. And then we have our serializer, um, and for this we need to actually import it from our serializers class. So I think this was inside from dot serializers import student serializer. Okay, and then we have our serializer. We are gonna initiate it student serializer, and we are gonna pass it the data that we have received in a JSON response, our JSON request, and then we are going to check if this data is valid. Serializer provides us a lot of flexibility, so it provides you it provides you with this is valid method to check if the if your JSON is valid, if it contains all of the required fields, and the data type is correct of the field. So it's just going to check if it is valid. If it's valid, then we are going to save it into our model. So we're going to call serializer dot save. So it will just simply this serializer will convert your data into model, and then the serializer will dot save will save your data inside your database. It will actually insert a row inside your database with the data that you provided. And then finally, we have saved the data. Now we are going to return the JSON response. Okay, so I need to import that as well. I'm gonna import it from Django dot, I guess, http dot response import JSON response. Yep. Okay, so now I'm gonna return the JSON response. I'm gonna call it student created successfully. That's it. And I'm gonna call cf equals false. Okay, so this will actually, if the data is valid, it will save it. It will create the. It will save it inside your database table, and then it will return your JSON response. In case it is not valid, in that case, we are going to return the JSON response with failed message. We are gonna call this field to add student, and I'm gonna call cf equals false. Okay, so that's a very simple post API for our view. Let me just reformat the file, and let's just remove this comment from here. Okay, so okay, it's again complaining. Let's just reformat it again. Okay, so that's it. That's the post request here. Now if I just uh, restart, it's already restarted, sorry about that. If I go back to the main page, here you can see that okay, so basically before going to the actual before calling this, we will need to register the URL, since we are gonna hit it from the URL. So for that, we are going to first create a file urls.py. Okay, now new Python file urls.py. Okay, so now in this urls.py, we need to configure our URL so that we can access it from the browser. So I have created the urls.py file. Now I'm going to uh, say URL patrons, I guess. Let me just copy it from the main urls.py file. Okay, where is it? Here it is. Okay, so URL patrons, and here I'm going to call it students, and I'm going to uh, pass it actually view. So for that, I'm going to first import it from the views, and here I will pass my view to it. Uh, it's student view dot as view. and that's it. So this will actually uh, um, you can now actually access it the from your application. Now if I go back here and I refresh this page, okay, I'm still not able to see. Okay, what is wrong here? Let me just check it. URL patrons equals path student view dot as view. um I think so, it's totally fine. uh Maybe I'm just missing something. No, it should actually show me students did not match any of these. Okay, that's weird. I don't understand why it's not showing there. uh okay, so okay, sorry, I just got it. I just thought that I have added it there. So basically I have already added it inside my application, but for it to access from the actual project from Django, I will need to include it inside the parent URL. So here you can see this admin, this which was edited by default. So actually I can access this admin from here since it is already registered here, and now I will need to add the uh, other path for here for students app. So I'm gonna tell it that there is another uh, that if you hit this URL, then you are going to go to the students app. So I'm going to call include. Okay, I will first need to import it, and then I'm going to say that you need to import students dot urls. Okay, so that's it. Sorry about the typos again. Okay, so now if I go back, it has reloaded it. If I go back here, go back to the main page, now I should see this. So now you can see that I have defined these two. You can see these two URLs in your URL configuration. Now if I go back to, now if I try to hit this students list, I should be able to uh, get the post, but I'm getting an error here. Well, because it's because we have to add the, what, by the way, what it's saying, template loader postmortem. Okay, okay, so basically we haven't added the REST framework in our installed apps. So we will first need to go to uh, the settings.py file. In here I will need to add REST framework. Okay, and let me just add, if I need the course headers as well, I guess I will need to add that as well. Let me add that too, because it will complain later on. So let's just add it right now. So I've added the course headers and REST framework apps here. Now if I go back, okay, so it's saying no module named REST framework. That's weird. Have I made any mistake? REST underscore framework should be. Okay, so now if I go back there, now I should be able to access it. Okay, so now here you can see that you can access this post uh, uh, method here. Here you are seeing that it's saying method get not allowed will well, because we haven't created the get method for it yet. We have actually created only the post method, and here you can see allow. In allow, it's saying post, like initially it's just only allowing you the post method. We will write these methods later on as well. So first let's just try to create a student. So I'm gonna just this media type is application slash JSON. We are going to use slash JSON, and then we had first name. I hope so. This was the exact name. First name Lex, and I'm gonna call last name. Let's just call this Bob. And then I had, I guess, registration number, if I remember correctly. Okay, so let's just hit post where registration number is not valid for model student. Registration number, let me go back. Why is it throwing this error? uh, I will need to go to registration. Okay, that's my bad. I will need to type that again. Okay, let me type again, and this time I will copy it. First name Alex. So, I have missed commas from here. Let me just copy it in case I get another error. Okay, so I think that's it. Now I'm gonna post it. And I got another error, has no column named registration number table students underscore. Okay, so I will need to apply the migrations again. Python manage.py, make migrations. Yes, and now I'm going to migrate. Okay, let's start it again and go back to the endpoint, copy paste, and let me post. Okay, so now it hasn't given me any error, means the it must have done something behind, but I do not see any response here. So I can actually go to the admin page and check if it's being created there. Here I can go to the students, and here you can see here it has added an object here. If I go inside it, then it has created this. So my API has worked. And actually this is not a good way to actually test your post and test your CRUD API. I actually like to use the Postman. So if you want to use Postman, you can install it from the internet, and then here you can actually go here and you can put the post request, and then you can copy this URL, which was the slash students. And then if I copy it from here, and you can go there, and inside body you will go to raw JSON, and here I will paste. Oh, sorry about that. So the idea is that you can use Postman for these kind of things, and I will need to retype it again. So you will just add your payload here, and then you will send it. Then you can see the actual response here. So that's it. That was our post API next, and it's working perfectly fine. next we can go ahead and create our next our next operation. So let's just implement where is my views.py. Okay, so inside my I'm back to my views.py, and now I'm going to create the get uh, endpoints. Okay, so I am coming here. Okay, and I will first create what will I need here? I will not need request, maybe I will need it actually. Okay, and then I will need a primary key. Okay, now I'm going to see if user has provided the primary key, then I'm going to get the data for that specific student ID. So I will get let's just create a utility function for this get underscore student. And I'm going to pass it a primary key, and here I will just do student equals will get okay, I will need to actually import my student model from dot models import student. Okay, and now I'm going to get student dot objects dot get, and here I will say that my student ID should be equals to pk, and then I will simply return that student. Okay, sorry about that. Return student, and if it fails, if the student doesn't exist, then in that case I'm going to throw an exception. I will call student dot does not exist dot does not exist does not exist, then just simply raise okay, first for this I will actually import http 404 from, I guess I will get it from maybe from Django dot http dot I guess should be response. Yep. And then I'm gonna call http 404. Okay, so now I'm going to raise http 404 in that case. Okay, so this is our simple get API, but now I'm gonna call self dot get underscore student, and I'm going to call it with the pk. Okay, and then I will just simply return this in my serializer. I have get this data as a model object. Now I will need to uh, transform it into the XML so that I can return in JSON format so that it can be returned as a response. So I'm gonna call student serializer on my data. This is going to convert it into JSON object, and then I'm going to go for else case. In that case, I will get all of the students when primary key is not specified. So in that case, I'm going to simply call data equals student dot objects dot objects dot all, and then I'm going to initialize serializer equals student serializer data, and I guess I will pass many equals true here so that it can serialize multiple rows, because in this case we are going to get all of the objects. Okay, so now we are going to finally return uh, the response, uh, and I'm going to use serializer dot data. Okay, I'm going to return the response in JSON format, and I'm going to import this response from REST framework. So I will just from REST underscore framework, I guess, dot response, import response. Yep. Okay, so that's it. Okay, now if I go back to the students API, here you can see that I have hit this endpoint, and now I'm able to get all of the students that I have created. Here you can also see that in allow you can now see get and post two requests, since we have implemented get and post methods in our view. And if you want to go to here, and if you hit the get in your we do not need body here, so we are gonna set it to none. Now if you'll hit the get API here, you will get the response here in your postman as well. This is the 200 OK response. Okay, so our get and post APIs are working perfectly fine. Now we are going to implement the patch and the delete APIs. So for that, I'm going to implement first. I guess I should implement patch first, and then we will implement our final delete request. Okay, but before that, I just forgot one thing. We haven't tested this thing. We have tested the we have actually tested this the all request, but we haven't tested the other one. So let's just check if that works. If I pass slash student slash one, I should get okay, I'm not getting. Well, because I haven't actually registered that URL. I have just registered slash students in my urls.py. So I will go inside my urls.py, and here I will need to uh, pass that URL with parameters so that I can get a specific students. So I will call students slash int pk. So this will be my parameter that will be passed to the view, and I am going to call student view dot as underscore view. Okay, so now if I go back, I should be able to get the student. Okay, so now I'm getting the first student. If I hit student slash 2, I should be able to get the student slash 2 didn't match. Well, that's weird. Let me see if I have student ID 1, student ID 2. Well, that's weird. It was getting first one. Okay, something went wrong. Let me go back there. What have I missed? Okay, I needed a slash here. Okay, so I go back. So I'm getting my first student. If I get the second one, I'm getting the second student as well. Okay, so our get API is working perfectly fine. And now we are going to create the patch and the patch and the delete methods. So inside here, I'm going to move this post down. So okay, so it didn't move. I will just move it here, and now I'm going to create my patch. This patch, I'm gonna call it put. Okay, so I will need the request object, and then I will need my pk. Okay, so here I'm going to first get the student to date. student to update equals student dot objects dot get student id equals pk, and then I'm going to call my serializer to serialize this into the JSON object. Serializer equals student serializer instance equals student to update. Okay, and I'm gonna call data equals request dot data, and then finally I will call partial equals true, so that we can pass the partial data, since it's not necessary that user will um, update all of the fields. User can only update the first name field, can only update the last name field, or 2 fields, 3 fields, etc. So we have passed this partial here, and now we are going to check if our serializer is valid. Then we are going to update our object, otherwise we will throw the error. If it's valid, we are going to simply call serializer.save. It will save our object, update the object in the database, and then so now we are going to return the final response. Failed to update student. Okay, so we have created our put request. Now we can test this out. Let's just go there and hit patch, and we are going to update our first. Here I will update the course, maybe. Let me call it programming. I will hit true, and okay, I'm getting the error. What am I doing wrong here? Okay, sorry about that. I had to call the put request actually, and I'm getting the error again. You called this, but the URL doesn't add in the slash. Okay, sorry. I will need to end it with a slash, and now I'm gonna hit it. Okay, I'm gonna getting the cannot resolve keyword student ID into field choices are course email, first name, last name. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? Student ID, STUDN. Okay, oh, I had a typo here. Okay, let's test it again. Now our student has been updated successfully. Now if I get it, then you can see that it's been updated in the backend, and yep, our course has been updated for this student. So our put patch, our put post and get requests are working perfectly fine. Now we can implement our final operation, which is the delete operation. So let's go back here, and now I'm going to write def delete self request, and I will also need primary key for this. And first I will get student to delete, student to delete equals student dot student dot objects dot get student id equals pk, and then I'm going to say student to delete dot delete. That's simple, very simple. That's because we have used REST framework, and you can see that it is very simple to use. We can use these serializers to convert the objects into models or into JSON response. Now we are going to simply call return JSON response, and I'm saying student deleted successfully, and that's it. Cf equals false. So this was our final method. Now let's just test this. If I go okay, so I will have to fix this typo. If I go back here, now you can see delete as well here. So I'm going to test it from the from Postman. I will hit this, and I'm going to delete student one. I will hit it, and it returns student deleted successfully. Now if I try to get it, I should get that student doesn't exist. That's weird. Students slash one. Okay. If I go back there, get student dot objects dot get student id. Okay, that's a bad thing. Okay, so the main purpose of our API has been achieved. We can work on these. So let's just don't do this. Let's just for time being say return student does not exist. Let's just call JSON response student does not exist, safe equals false. Okay, let's just remove it from here. We will just handle these exceptions somewhere else in some other tutorial. So okay, it's saying JSON response object has no attribute first name. That's really weird. Okay, so well so basically if I go back there and if I hit the students, I should be able to see that this student actually is not there. It's been removed from here. Okay, so this was the very simple simple CRUD operations that we have simply implemented in our API. So that was the backend, and it's actually complete. And now we will actually move towards the front end part. So thank you for watching.